Hello, and welcome to All About Billings. We are a show dedicating to discovering the people that make Billings a great place to work and live. We will interview entrepreneurs, business owners, artists, musicians, community leaders, and find out from them all about their successes, their failures, and their connection to Billings. I'm your host, Nancy Brook, with Billings Best Real Estate. And today it is my pleasure to welcome our guest, Jessica Brophy.
Hello.
Hello. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Jessica. She was raised in the wilderness of Montana. I want to find more about that.
Yeah.
And grew up training horses, raising chickens, and painting. Sounds like an idyllic childhood. Jessica moved to LA at age 18 to study art and design before she started her business 3 years later. And Jessica, you do art differently. Jessica makes custom art, which means she works one-on-one with each of her clients to create a painting or drawing around their style and what they love.
Yeah.
One of the things that is really popular are your pet portraits. So, Jessica, I have so many questions to ask you, but welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Well, let's start from the beginning. Your childhood. You grew up in the wilderness of Montana. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I was raised in the same house until I was 18, then I moved away. But I was raised in the country and I didn't have a lot of friends. And I had chickens and ducks and we had all sorts of different animals and horses when I was a kid. So all I did was just train horses and then paint and read a lot of books. And so I think that's kind of why I am an artist now, is because I just had all the time to practice art when I was a kid.
Well, so where did you grow up?
In Columbus, outside of Columbus,
Oh, okay.
Montana.
Okay, so
yeah.
nearby.
Yeah, like 40 minutes away from here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so what was that like with your early years doing art? How did you learn to do art and painting and all that? I mean, where
Yeah.
did that come from?
So I started drawing when I was 11, and it was a few years before I started painting. I only started with pencil drawing. And I started drawing horses because I was and still am obsessed with horses. And I remember my very first drawing was a horse's face straight on, and I just thought, I don't even want to be an artist. I just want to get the anatomy right on this horse. And drawing a horse's face straight on is like the hardest angle that you can draw on a horse. And so I remember very vividly, I had just gotten home from school and I tried to draw this horse, and I was so upset that I couldn't get it perfect on my first try. And I was like, no, I know I can do this. And so then every day after school, I would try to draw the same horse's face. And then I noticed that I was getting a little bit better and a little bit better. And then that was kind of like an addiction then, to like perfect the horse's anatomy. So for years, until I was like 14 or 15, all I did was draw horses. And I would come home every day from school and try to perfect the horse's anatomy while still thinking, I'm not going to be an artist, I just want to do this. And then I started slowly getting into painting. And then it wasn't until I was in interior design school, I have a degree in interior design, that I really started to hone in on those art skills. Because what was happening was I would go to these classes, design a room, and then you'd have to make a room rendering. So you'd have to show your prospective client what your room design was going to look like. And so a lot of students were doing that on like Revit and different computer programs. And I rather would have done that on like with watercolor and ink. So that's what I was doing, is making room renderings. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, the anatomy of animals is challenging because, to capture the muscle, the tendons, and with a horse, they're so muscular and everything shows.
Yeah.
And so how did you learn to master that? I mean, you can see it, but to get it on a piece of paper,
Sure.
that's not necessarily easy.
Yeah, you're very right. It was just so many years of practice, and I was not good when I started. So there's kind of this misconception that artists are kind of just born with these skills of knowing how to draw, and that was not the case for me at all. I mean, I remember being frustrated for years and years that I couldn't draw it like the masters. And even I was still frustrated with my skills after college. So I mean, we're talking like 10 years, of practicing before I really started to enjoy my own art. Yeah, so much practice.
So from Columbus, so small town girl, growing up with your animals, having a pretty quiet life.
Yeah.
Then you decide to go to one of the biggest cities in the United States, to LA.
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
Oh,
that must have been a
so
shock.
Scary. Yeah, and I didn't know anybody in LA. Like, my entire world, like I said, was this one house in Columbus, Montana. And then when I was 18, I graduated high school and just moved to LA. And I knew I wanted to, like, be something, I wanted to accomplish a lot with my life. And I've always had these really big dreams, and I don't know where they come from. I've just always had it in, like, my DNA that I need to accomplish really amazing things with my life. And so when I was in high school, I thought, well, I'm not going to do that in Columbus, so I need to move somewhere big where I can do big things. And then LA just kind of manifested out of that. And the reason I moved to LA was to go to the Art Institute in North Hollywood. And that's where I got my degree in interior design. So I kind of chose interior design and then started researching colleges and found the Art Institute and then moved there.
So did you ever do anything with interior design, or did you just become an artist?
Kind of. I was an interior designer for a while. I worked in Beverly Hills for a while.
Wow, fancy, fancy.
I know. It was crazy. Like, if you've ever watched The Devil Wears Prada, that movie, it was exactly like that. Like, it was insane. But it was such good, like, exposure and character development, and it was such good, like, business knowledge too to gain. And then,
but you were just really young.
Yeah.
I mean, not that you're old now, but really young.
I was like 20
to be in Beverly Hills doing all this.
Yeah. It was definitely a hustle. And then I didn't have a car in LA. And if you don't know anything about LA, it is not at all like Manhattan or New York or any of those cities where you can get around with the subway. There is very few buses, especially in wealthier parts of Los Angeles. There's very few buses. And when I was there, the bus system was even newer than it is now, of course. So it was like an hour and a half bus ride just to get to work. And then I would, show up late for work because the bus was late, or I'd miss my bus and then I'd get yelled at. It was really, really hard. It was really hard. And then I moved back to Montana after college. The plan was to not stay in Montana. I just graduated a couple days before Christmas, so I thought I'm just going to spend a month in Montana. And then I did some interior design work then, and I still use my degree now. I mean, for the business thing and for like designing my studio and things like that. I love design.
So you enjoy it, but what brought you to start an art business?
Sure. So I realized 3 things in college. I realized that I wanted to use my skills to impact people in a meaningful way. I realized that I'm passionate about helping people, and I didn't want to just work some boring 9-to-5 where I felt like I wasn't doing much in the world. So I wanted to like really make a big impact in people's lives. And then I also realized I need to be an entrepreneur. It's kind of my gift to be an entrepreneur and a business owner. And I really make a terrible employee. So I was like, I have to own my own business. And then the third thing I realized was I am good at art and I'm getting better at art. So I wanted to combine those 3 things. Initially, I was going to start an interior design business. And then when I moved back to Montana, I think I just started experimenting with things and realized that I love hearing about people's personalities and their dreams and their stories. So from that, I created this idea of fully customizable fine art. So this process is not done in the art industry. I created this process of making a custom piece of art. So that is like sitting down with somebody and then letting them choose the 5 aspects of their painting. So that's size, medium, style, color palette, and layout. And that took like years of experimenting. So I think just like making that process and getting that momentum, and then being more and more passionate about that as I went.
Well, and I mean, you're just kind of giving us a surface level, but to be able to have people pick their style is a huge thing, because if I say I want an impressionist style, well, you have to be able to execute an impressionist painting, which
Yeah.
isn't necessarily everybody's forte.
Yeah.
How are you able to do so many different types of work?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Thank you. And I know you know a lot about art too, so you get it.
Yeah.
Yes. So I just love variety. And I think I noticed early on that I don't have one particular style. I like all the styles. So art is kind of a language. If you can learn to paint one thing pretty well, then you can kind of paint anything pretty well, as long as you're bold enough to try. So I realized it's not that hard to go from realism to impressionism. And then it's kind of driven by, like I said, my passion for people's stories. So I a lot of times will meet people in my business with completely different styles than I have. You know, they like really bright rainbow colors or kind of like crazy psychedelic type art. And I realize that's not something I would have in my house, but I can see their passion for it or their love for that style, and then I can kind of like empathize with that and create it through their love, if that makes sense.
So why did you decide to go this route instead of just doing the art that you felt compelled to do, you know, based on your own expression and your own interests?
Yeah.
Because it's really taking a back seat
Yeah.
when you let others, I guess, craft what you're doing.
Right. Yeah, that's very well said. I started that really early on, like right when I started Free Indeed Art. I didn't even try to promote my own style. I knew right away that I have to create this process, invent this process to make custom art for people. And that was just motivated by wanting to use my talent for people instead of making art for the love of art. I wanted to make art for the love of people. So I knew I needed to make it about each client and not me. Because the alternative would be like me painting whatever I love and whatever style I love and then putting it in a gallery and going, isn't this pretty? Don't you want to buy it? And I didn't really like the idea of that.
Because that's typically what you see artists doing.
Yeah, that's
like
how the art
they can
industry.
even have wild random things, or here's a dot and this is a masterpiece, and people go, well, it is, I'll pay $20,000 for that, or $100,000 or whatever.
Yeah, and it's not that there's inherently anything wrong with that. I just knew that didn't fit my personality. I'm very much an extrovert, and I wanted to sit down with people and hear what they love. And a lot of times it's something simple like their dog or a vacation they went on in a landscape that they love.
Well, and I should mention too that we will share some of your art at the end of the program, so stick around to the end so you can see some of Jessica's beautiful art that she's done for different people through the years. So as an entrepreneur starting a brand new kind of business, you must have faced some challenges. What do you think are some of the biggest challenges that you've had to face?
Oh man, that's such a great question. I would say criticism was probably the biggest challenge early on. There would be people that would look me in the face and say, "So when are you going to get a real job?" And when you don't have the success under your belt to back up what you're doing, it can be really hard. Even when people have good intentions, they will want you to downplay what you're passionate about in order to focus on stability. And then as I went along, another challenge I came upon was loneliness. It's very lonely to be a business owner sometimes. We can build teams around us, but you're still a leader and you still have all these responsibilities that fall on your shoulder, and sometimes that can get really lonely. Yeah.
So how did you overcome people's doubts about you, or people maybe even being helpful?
Sure.
I remember when I told my mother, this was years and years ago, that I was going to quit my job and start a business. And
Yeah.
she said, well, that's your funeral.
Right.
And she didn't,
Right.
she was a nice person. It
Yeah.
wasn't like she was trying to put me down, but
Right.
she just couldn't imagine why I would be so out of my mind to do that.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
can get that. So you must experience that, but how do you keep on going?
Ooh. I think that's just like a personality thing, because it really gave me an advantage being raised to be alone and to kind of take care of myself and not rely on so many friends. Like if I was raised in a suburb or something, I think I would have a better community, which probably would have been better overall. But one thing that my childhood gave me was a reliance on myself. So I think from an early age, all I knew was to follow my own heart and follow my own instincts. And I faced a lot of hardship in Los Angeles, but I just had this stalwart belief that I need to be here and I can't give up. So I think that's what it was. It's like
So
there was
you
no
just
other
had
option.
that internal drive and desire that you were going to make it work, and you just were able to tune out
Yeah.
the negative voices.
Yeah.
And and I think the key is, I like what you said though, it's even if they're well-intentioned.
Right.
Because sometimes people are well-intentioned and they're
Right.
trying to be helpful, but they're not realizing that they're raining on your dream.
Yeah. Because not everybody has this like competitiveness, Some people value like peace, or some people value stability more. And I think I'm just like a competitive personality, and so I think not everyone saw the world as I saw the world.
So when did you know that you had finally made it? When did you get that feeling like, because at first I'm sure you were like, wow, this is a new idea. How am I going to find clients?
Yeah. I feel like I still haven't made it.
Now, how long have you been doing this? You've been
10
doing
years.
this. Yeah, you've been
10
doing this a
years.
while.
Yeah, I started my business when I was 20, so I guess 11 years. I'm 31 now. Yeah, I actually felt a big sense of accomplishment when I started doing music. So I'm also a musician, and so all throughout my art career, I was like, I'm still passionate about music. I really want to do music, but I was terrified. And so it seems very unrelated, but a year ago, when I started performing music live, it instilled so much confidence in my own abilities that it even made my art better. And I think that was a big level up. Like, I've made it this far. Yeah.
That's really interesting. So pursuing another passion
Yep.
kind of helped everything.
It did. Like, doing the thing that you think you can't do is really, oh man, it's like the biggest joy in life for me.
So you've been doing this business, you've been in LA, now you've been back to Billings for a while.
Yep.
What do you think about living here versus living in the big city? What brought you back?
Sure. I love Montana. I love the freedom we have here. I'm also a big outdoor person. So I
Okay.
love the wilderness. My animals are here. My family is here. I have a horse at my mom's house. So I could not leave my horse. Years ago, I was like, the only way I would move to outside of Montana now is if I could take my horse with me, because I just love that horse so much. But I think eventually I'll move out of Montana again.
Yeah.
I visited New York a couple times, and I love Manhattan. It would be so fun to live there. But I don't think my love of Montana is ever going to go away. Yeah.
And how has the business community responded to you as a new entrepreneur? Well, I guess 10-year-old entrepreneur at this point.
Sure. I always say Billings is the best place to start a business, because it's kind of the perfect balance of, there's enough people here that you can support yourself as an entrepreneur. It's not like a tiny, tiny town where there's, you're going to saturate the market. And then there's also, it's small enough that people trust you easier. I've done marketing in Nashville and on the East Coast and in LA, and there's a huge difference in how people respond to you. People don't trust you as much, and of course people in cities are more imbued with marketing and stimulation. So in Billings, people have been so supportive, and they've really been so trusting and welcoming. I think it's great.
Oh, that's really good to hear.
Yeah.
And so, advice would you give to somebody looking to start a business here in Billings?
I would say self-awareness is the single most important thing, because if you're not passionate about what you're doing and you're kind of doing it just because you think it's impressive or you think that somebody else thinks you should be doing this, then you're really not going to last and you're going to burn out. So you need self-awareness above anything to know why you're doing it, what you're most passionate about, and what you are afraid of. And I think sometimes knowing what you're afraid of can point you to what you're most passionate about.
How do you mean?
So like music was my thing. I was terrified of music. Art wasn't ever scary to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could do paintings and put them in shows or sell them, and somebody could say, your art is really bad. And I would be like, all right, like that's fine. But I noticed that there was a huge fear around music specifically. Mm-hmm. So even just thinking about performing in front of people felt so impossible. It felt like going to the moon because it was so impossible. And that fear told me that I'm most passionate about music because I had that fear. So I think, that tells me music is what I should be pursuing also.
Well, as somebody recently said to me, not to me, but in a talk I was listening to, that it takes a while to be good at anything.
Yeah.
And, you're a testament to that, spending all those years when you were young working on your art for 10 years before you even went to college, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
You'd worked on it a long time.
Yep.
And so if you're going to spend that amount of time to be good at anything, why not do something that you enjoy doing?
Yes, exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
Because it's going to take long to do something you hate or something you
Yep.
like. So
yeah.
you might as well do something you at least enjoy.
Yep. And if you do something you hate, you're probably going to get burnt out and you're going to hate your life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, so changes around here. Things have really grown in the last 10 years especially.
Yeah.
What have you noticed?
Oh my gosh. I have
And
noticed,
especially Columbus too. I mean,
Yeah.
It was a tiny little town.
I know. I always thought Columbus never changed, and then in the last 3 years, it's really grown. We still don't have a stoplight though in Stillwater County. I'm proud of that fact. I've noticed there are so many people and so many cars on the street. I remember I always say this, and I sound like a grumpy old person when I say this, but when I was a kid and we would go to Billings to go to the dentist, and I remember from Columbus to Billings, you would pass maybe 4 cars on the interstate, I feel like. And now sometimes it's a proper freeway. I mean, there's people in both lanes trying to travel, and like a pack of cars. It's crazy. But anytime I want to get annoyed about it, I have to remind myself, this is just opportunity. That's all it is. All these people are opportunity, especially as a business owner. I mean,
Right.
think about how much more art I could sell if there's more people here. So.
Well, and the other thing, I know a lot of locals complain about people moving here from other states.
Yeah.
But the thing that I like about Billings now compared to where we were 20 years ago, 30 years ago, is that you have so many more, I guess, people from different places, and it makes it
Yeah.
interesting because they bring their ideas,
Yes.
their fun entertainment, their whatever, great restaurant ideas.
Yes.
And Billings, I feel like, has really expanded instead of being just a big cow town.
Cowtown,
I mean,
yeah.
we're still a cow town, which is okay. I mean, I
Yeah.
have cows across from my house, so that's
I
how
love
cow
that.
town I am.
Yeah. I love that.
But
yeah, you're right.
But I think some people, don't like it. But I see there's also a real positive side to it.
There is. I love diversity.
Yeah.
That is one thing I miss about LA is the
Sure.
diversity. Diversity in people and, like you said, ideas. It's really huge.
Right. So when you are thinking about doing art, how do you go about the process of figuring out what it is that I might want
Sure.
as a customer of yours?
Sure. A lot of people will come to me and they already kind of have an idea because they've been following me on social media for a while, and they kind of know that they get to choose their medium and their size and everything.
Uh-huh.
And I notice that a lot of people are kind of intimidated, and they think that they have to know a lot about art to choose they're medium in size and style and everything. And I always tell clients, even if you don't have a preference or don't have an idea, of course I will always, you know, suggest what would look best. I always tell people I'm full of ideas and opinions, so just ask me, you know. So a lot of people will come to me with their idea kind of already in mind. Like, I want my German Shepherd painted in oil and I'm going to hang it on this wall in my house, so it needs to be this big. But some people want more metaphorical paintings, and so they'll say, you know, these are the words that I'm thinking of, here's a poem that I like, and I want you to create a metaphorical painting around that. And so usually that's a more in-depth conversation, and I'll just sit down and we'll talk about what inspires them, why they want this piece of art, you know, why they found the poem or the whatever it is that inspired them. And then we'll talk about where the painting is going to be hung. If it's going to be hung in their office or their house, we'll talk about the design in their house. That's where the design degree really comes in handy. We'll talk about the style in their house and the colors and things like that. And then we can really match the painting with their house and with what inspires them.
Well, and I know that I've seen some of your art before, and some of it, you know, it's like, I'd never personally like want this combination of things.
Yeah.
So there must be things that you're going, that's not how I would do it. How do you just get past that? I don't know. It's just
Like bad ideas.
yeah, or just, you know, it's your opinion.
Yeah.
And you know what you like.
Right.
But I would find it really hard if somebody wanted something that I would find like really bad taste or something. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not even talking offensive, but just like, wow, why would you want the dog on top of the mountaintop at this level? And I mean,
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. There is a interior designer that I really admire, and he told me one time that he has to be an editor for his clients, and I've really taken that on because that's what you have to do sometimes, is be an editor.
Right.
So you take everyone's ideas, or every idea that your client has, and then you start to edit it. And really what's most important, I think, is to keep in mind, what is the purpose of this painting? So not every painting has to be this magnificent, beautiful piece of art. Sometimes the painting is like a branding piece for somebody, or sometimes it's a reminder of a memory. So you have to keep in mind, what is the purpose of this painting, and that will help you edit the ideas out. So sometimes it's like, yeah, aesthetically, I wouldn't necessarily put these two ideas together, but the client isn't thinking about aesthetics, they're thinking about their memory, and I think that's the most important thing.
Well, that's great. Well, Jessica, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure interviewing you today. And folks, be sure to watch till the end, because we are going to share some of Jessica's art. And it's Free Indeed Art.
Free Indeed Art. You can friend me on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. Just search Jessica Brophy and you'll find me. I also have a Facebook page as Free Indeed Art, a business page, but it's probably just easier to follow me on Facebook under my name.
Jessica Brophy, and you can see her name right on the show here. And thanks again, and folks, be sure to watch and look at Jessica's beautiful artwork.
Thank you
And
very
we will
much.
see you next time. I'm Nancy Brooke, Billings Best Real Estate.